Hello, everyone. In our Friday series, we are going to talk about PCOS and different topics. Today, we are going to talk about PCOS and sugar, how it affects you. Kimberly will be joining us in 1 second, and she will be telling us how sugar can impact if you have PCOS. Kimberly is an acupuncturist and a nutritionist, a registered dietitian who lives in Florida, who will be talking about PCOS and sugar. I see Kimberly joining us in 1 second. Kimberly, I can't. Oh, hi.
Sorry about that. Had the camera going in the wrong direction.
We
How are
finally
you?
figured this out.
I think we got this.
Oh my
How are
God,
you
I
doing?
just start getting. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us, Kimberly. And the topic I was just telling our viewers today is PCOS and sugar. So please go ahead and
Yes.
educate. Well, I don't have PCOS, but there are a lot of other women who struggle with PCOS.
There are a lot of women. It's actually the #1 cause of infertility in the United States. I don't know if that extrapolates around the world, but it is a huge issue in the United States. And I think a lot of it has to do with the average diet. The standard American diet is exactly what it is, SAD, sad. And a big component of it is excess sugar in the diet.
Okay.
And there are some arguments that that's the primary cause of PCOS, but there is no definitive study saying that, that is the only reason. But what happens is every time we eat something that's high simple carb or high sugar, it causes our pancreas to release insulin. Now, normally this is Sorry. What's going on here?
Yeah, well, that's okay. All right, that's
Okay,
fine now.
so normally that's a normal part of our digestive process, but when we're eating too many carbs or too much sugar, it causes us to constantly release insulin. Now, the reason this becomes a problem is because insulin is a growth hormone, and constant levels of insulin being released is going to lead to us putting on weight. When we have high levels of insulin, it causes our body to go into a fat storage mode because it's like, oh, we have so much extra fuel, let's just store it for when we need it later. Because, we didn't have all this food hundreds of years ago.
Think of it like a storage space, like a garage within the garage that you're using within the body, right?
Exactly. Because, 200 years ago, food wasn't so easy to come by, and we had to take it when we could. But, now our bodies haven't caught up to the situation at hand, which is for most people, food is, a regular occurrence throughout the day. So what also happens is when we have high levels of insulin, not only do we have high levels of fat storage, we increase testosterone production.
I see.
So when insulin is around, we're producing more testosterone. That causes a problem with ovulation. If your testosterone levels become too high, you're not going to ovulate.
Yeah.
And that's why you have problems with fertility. And they do kind of some people refer to PCOS as the diabetes of the ovaries.
Okay.
Blood sugar levels are the reason behind a lot of problems, not just PCOS, obviously diabetes, but there's also a huge correlation with Alzheimer's. So besides wanting to be able to get pregnant and get rid of these issues with your menstruation and the pain that comes with PCOS, down in the line, you also want to get this under control because you don't want these long-term issues either.
Yeah.
So it's, sugar is part of it, but processed foods, tend to have a lot more sugars and simple carbs. So trying to get that out of the diet. And the other thing that people kind of don't think about that causes that insulin rise is there's two other, diet and exercise are one, but also chronic inflammation can lead to excess insulin levels because chronic inflammation increases our cortisol levels, and high cortisol levels creates insulin resistance. So keeping, the sugar is a huge part, but keeping our insulin levels also depends on making sure that we lower stress levels in our life, because that cortisol being high can also lead to that insulin resistance and make, a regular diet into something that becomes unhealthy because we can't handle what's, the level of carbs that are in there. So diet and exercise do go hand in hand. One trick with blood sugar and insulin is exercise. Exercise kind of bypasses the mechanism that our body requires to get sugar from the outside of the cell into the cell. That's where insulin comes in. Insulin is like the key that opens the door for the sugar to go in the cell. And when there's too many keys floating around, our body's like, yeah, we got enough, and it stops responding. But the beauty of exercise is it bypasses the key. It forces the door open. Exercise is like someone coming and just kicking that door open to let the sugar into the cell to be used for fuel. So that's why exercise is so helpful in controlling the sugar levels. And the bottom line is, yes, if you have PCOS, you have to get rid of sugar in the diet, and even natural sugars like fruit, you have to limit your intake. You want to do 2 fruits a day, and you don't really want to go more than that. And in the beginning, some people are so sensitive that they can't even do 2 fruits a day. So that doesn't mean it has to be that way forever. Usually you have to go through a detoxification. But eventually you can get back to where you can have a little bit, 1 or 2 pieces of fruit, because fruit's a very wonderful thing to have in your diet. There's a lot of health benefits, but sometimes you do have to take it out for a little bit to get control back.
Okay. And then, so I think sometimes, you talked about like, how do I know that the insulin level is increasing in my body? I mean, what percent, right? If
Well, there's a very simple blood test that you can do. So you can go to your primary care physician or your gynecologist and ask them to do blood work. And you want to look at your fasting blood sugar levels, which that number you want to be below 90.
Below 90.
Below 90 for fasting blood sugar. And then you have your insulin levels that you want below 10. And then you want to look at your hemoglobin A1C, which gives us that looks at blood sugar over a long period of time. And you want that really below 5.7 to have like really good control. And those are the 3 things that you can get, blood work. Those are easily seen. And then for sure, where you're standing. And then let's say your numbers are high and you go ahead and you find somebody to work with, to make adjustments in your diet and your lifestyle. And then you can go and repeat those tests in 90 days to see, because it takes 3 months for that hemoglobin A1C number to change. So you want to wait 3 or 4 months before you redo it to see, how effective your changes are in your body.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. And next session, what are we going to talk about? You're going to talk about remedies, or what do you suggest we?
I believe the next session is all about gluten and dairy with PCOS.
That would,
and then we have
that would be a continuation of
right, and then
your clients.
And then the last one will be, what kind of supplements and things you can do to help yourself. Okay?
All right. Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Happy Friday and enjoy.
Happy Friday. Happy weekend.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.